That's right, Judy. A warming atmosphere is creating
So we've
serious
had the UK
problems in
Met
the Arctic
Office
Circle
issuing its
and on the
first
continental
ever
Antarctica.
red warning for extreme heat. Temperatures of over possibly 38 degrees here expected
Melting
on
events
Monday
are
and
transforming
Tuesday.
that region.
As I mentioned, dozens of fires breaking out in
In
the
Antarctica, the ice shelf that
Queensland,
sits in
killing at
front
least
of
one
the Thwaites
person.
Glacier could break
about
up.
half
But it's still not clear exactly when this heat wave will end.
To our global leaders, we fear for our future.
Your promises aren't enough to fill the void left by the destruction of our environment.
You must fulfill your promises by actually doing it.
Life is more than just money. Our scientists from different continents had asked for your help long before we were born.
During the pandemic, you all have dealt with it and understood that it is a health crisis.
And for that, you were able to create different vaccines.
But why are the climate change, global warming, and the destruction of Earth and nature is something you are not taking seriously and not seeing as a health crisis?
We are citizens of a nation, among others in the Southern Hemisphere, that are already facing some of the worst consequences of climate change and global warming.
Citizens and indigenous groups of people have suffered with water crisis while it continues to loom for millions of others in the coming years, alongside with billion people across the world.
Devastating and record-breaking typhoons continue to wreak havoc across our country. The infamous Typhoon Yolanda being one, costed us billions upon billions of US dollars alone.
The typhoon had affected more than 14 million people, killed more than 6,000 people, and left 1,800 missing. 1.1 million of houses were destroyed, as well as 33 million coconut trees, which is a major source of livelihood for the people.
It is also not just the tropical nation that suffered. Melting of the North and South Arctic circles causing the rising sea levels, flooding the coasts and islands, the scorching heat waves from the Europe to Africa.
Remember, in the start of 2020, there was a huge wildfire in Australia that led to more than 10 hectares burned, thousands of houses destroyed, and millions and billions of native animals killed.
Some of those species and ecosystems may not even recover ever.
Climate change brings more drought and higher temperatures, which all makes it easier for wildfires to spread. This creates a cycle where wildfires will bring out more CO2 into the atmosphere, ultimately leading to a warmer climate again.
Not only does this warm up the environment, but it also significantly impacts the air quality around the vicinity.
The ones that will be affected by this disaster are the poor communities. Water quality drops, crops are being destroyed, and the lands used for agriculture are reduced.
1 year after the Australian wildfire, it created more significant damage. Ecologists estimated that about 1 billion animals have died in the fires, and millions of hectares of land have been burned, which affects the koala's habitat the most.
It is estimated that more than 8,000 koalas have been killed and as more than 30,000 on Kangaroo Island.
Reports show that the fire's impact can make koala functionally extinct as their population is experiencing a rapid decline.
The main reason? It was because of human activities. Their forests are being destroyed by deforestation as well as climate change.
The Philippines is known for its rich biodiversity. The country is home to an estimated 53,000 described species. Despite significant findings, the nation and it's recognized as a biodiversity hotspot and a top global conservation area.
Statistics suggest that many Philippine plant and wildlife species are being devastated at an alarming rate due to habitat loss, human activity, and climate change, among other things.
According to the DNR national list, the country now possesses over 700 vulnerable plant and animal species. This comprises 42 terrestrial animal species, 127 bird species, 24 reptiles, 14 amphibians, and 76 fish species.
The continual degradation of ecosystem and habitats that sustain and shelter the country's biodiversity is a significant threat. One of the causes of declining in biodiversity is habitat loss, which was mentioned in several issues in the Philippine Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan.
These include forest deterioration, unsustainable mineral exploitation, and other human activities and practices.
The causes of these disasters, I believe that every representative of each country is aware, and that the scientific community has repeatedly stated emission of greenhouse gases from electricity production, industry and transportation, as well as the abusive forest, the ocean, coral reefs, and our Mother Nature in general.
The lack of dedication of governments and multinational corporations to resolving these problems are appealing, and despite formulated programs and laws, they were not nearly enough to prevent billions from suffering and worsening of the situation at hand.
We should acknowledge our own actions and be aware of how this affects other nations and their people, and we should act on these world issues in this era of globalization. Remember that we do not only do this for our own benefit, but for the world as a whole.
Climate change can be prevented by pressuring the government or the business community to keep fossil fuels in the ground, since climate change worsens when more fossil fuels are extracted and burned. Switching to sustainable transport will not only reduce climate change, but reduce air pollution as well.
We should also practice tree planting. With this, we would be able to restore nature to absorb more carbon.
Another way to prevent climate change is to reduce the use of plastic. Plastic is harmful for the environment since it does not break down quickly, and a lot of plastic usually gets burned, and this results in emissions and greater pollution.
Hence, reducing the use of plastics and further thoroughly dedicating to programs that regulate and improve waste management, as well as promoting and investigating in research that are able to break down plastic or reuse it.
A thorough bill prohibiting the use of single-use plastic packages and products must be passed this year, as Philippines is the third worst polluter of plastic in the world.
Since 2018, 5 proposals that would outlaw single-use plastics in the nation has been pending approval. At the same time, the pandemic's increased production of medical waste has made the nation's garbage problem worse.
Recently, several studies in Japan have found bacteria that have enzymes that are able to break down plastic, and another study in the University of Texas further refined the enzyme with machine learning, making it extremely useful for recycling.
Breakthroughs such as these display the great efforts and innovativity of our global scientific community, and exactly why we should actively support them in their efforts to change the world for the better, and that it is possible.
United together, we have the capacity to conduct a joint operation in addressing climate change and global warming.
We have the technology to utilize clean and renewable energy and avoid the use of fossil fuels. We have the manpower to recover our Mother Nature and right our wrongs. Let the breakthroughs of our world's great minds be put to proper use and prioritize studies and endeavors into problems such as pollution, deforestation, marine destruction, and climate change. Else, what is the purpose of the United Nations if not address the greatest threats of the world?
This is the generation that we have felt the effects of climate change. We can do something about it. Don't let this be our last.
When is the right time to make a difference?
Damage is soaring.
The climate is changing.
So why aren't we?